Hello everyone. In this video I want to show you guys how you can add shapes and even graphics to your business card holder to kind of jazz it up a little bit. So at this point you should have watched the other video that showed you how to get into Mastercam, move around its different menus, and create your initial card holder with your name on it. What I want to do now is bring in just a shape. So you can bring in a shape, you can import it from any other CAD system like SolidWorks or AutoCAD, or you can create them right here in Mastercam using the wireframe tools. So let's just say I wanted to put a little frame around the outside of my name here. I would just simply go into the wireframe tab, go to rectangle, and just drag a rectangle holding down my left mouse button. I'll drag a rectangle around my name here, and I'll try to just center it up best I can by eye. You can always move it around later. And after I release my mouse button, I click again, and that places the rectangle. Now remember in Mastercam, when entities are blue like this, they're live. So that means that I can come over here on the left side, and I can actually change its physical size. But I like the size that it is, so I'm going to go ahead and click the green OK button here, and it places that rectangle around my name. Now if I wanted to further enhance that rectangle, I could chamfer the corners, or I could make them rounded, and in this case let's make them rounded. So on the same menu, the wireframe menu, I come up here to where it says fillet entities and I click it. The fillet entities box opens up and it defaults to a 1/4 inch radius. Now if you're not sure whether that's going to look good or not, you simply just come over here, click one of the lines, click an adjacent line, and you'll see a little ghost image of what that radius will look like. I'm going to click it and I'm going to say that's a little large for me. So I'm going to shrink that down just a little bit. Let's try something that's like 0.2. And while it's live like this, if I just type in 0.2 and press enter, you'll see that shape update. So now I'm going to go ahead and fill in the rest of the fillets just by clicking the adjacent lines. Remember to click on the side of the line you want to keep. All right, and when I'm all done, I'm going to click OK, and I've now put a nice radius frame around my name. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in a graphic from the internet. And like I said, you can import graphics if you wanted to from another CAD system, but I'm going to bring one in from the internet. Before I do that, I want to show you guys something called levels. Now in your Mastercam, on the bottom left-hand side here, you have these tabs for toolpath, drawing solids, planes, and then you see the one that says levels. If you're not familiar with levels are kind of like clear sheets of glass that you can draw on. And you can take those sheets of glass and turn them on or turn them off so that they're either visible or not visible. So in this example here, you can see that I have 3 levels, levels 3, 5, and 6, and I labeled them, the block, the notes, and the dimensions. And what levels are typically used for is for organizational purposes. It keeps things nice and organized. You can put the certain items on a certain level, and it also keeps things from being cluttered. If I wanted to turn off this block, for instance, I could just click this visible X right here, and you'll see the block disappears. If I click on the notes, the note disappears. And if I click on the dimension level, I happen to draw my name on the dimension level, you'll see everything disappears. If you want to turn everything on, you have this little icon right here, turns everything on or everything off. And in this case, I'm going to turn everything on for a moment, and I'm going to create a new level because when I bring in this graphic, I have no idea what size it's going to be, and it might just place it right over the whole drawing, which make it difficult for me to separate it and size it. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to create a new level, level 7, and I'm going to click into the name box here, and I'm going to type the word image and press enter. And when I do that, you can see up here that the new level that I created is active, and you can tell it's the active level I'm drawing on by this blue check. I'm going to turn everything off except for level 7. So from here, I'm going to go into Google Chrome, because Google Chrome is usually good for getting images. And I'm going to type the word clip art. I'm also going to select the images here. And before we pick an image, I want to explain to you what's the best type of image to bring into Mastercam. You know, you got some nice looking images here, very colorful. But remember, Mastercam is going to trace the image, so the colors don't matter. As a matter of fact, the colors can kind of get in your way. You see this duck and this owl. When you don't have clear, defined dark lines on the outer edges here, Mastercam will find it very difficult to bring the image in correctly. So we're going to use some of the Google filtering tools so that we can look at just black and white images. So up here in Google, we have this filtering toolbox. And the first thing I want to do is tell it that I want to look for files that are bigger than 2 megapixels. You want to do that because that'll give you a more defined image rather than something that's all pixelated. I'm also going to change the colors here to be just black and white images. And then I'm also going to tell it to look at just clip art. That way it's not going to look at photographs. Now I'm looking for a lightning bolt. So I'm going to type in lightning bolt. And I'm going to press enter. And you can see there's all different types of lightning bolts here. And one of the ones that I liked when I looked at this earlier was this one right here. So I'm going to click it. And I'm going to right click on this image and I'm going to say save the image as. Now when you save images, Mastercam can only look at 3 different types of image files. JPEG files like this, BMP files, and the PNG files. So this is a JPEG image. I'm going to save it to the desktop as LB, just for lightning bolt. Make sure it's going to go to the desktop. And I'm going to say save. And now I'm going to go ahead and minimize Google just in case I need it again. Sometimes you're bringing an image and you have to rework it, so I'll just minimize it for now. Now to bring that image into Mastercam, again, in the wireframe tab, there's this choice here called raster to vector. So raster is an image file, and when it converts it to vector, vector converts it to lines and arcs, and that allows you to machine it. So we're going to click on that box, and it's going to ask us if we want to merge the geometry in with the original geometry, and we're going to say yes. And then it asks us, where is the file? So I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to look for the file LB, and there it is, and I'm going to say open it. So when it comes in, on the left side, it shows you the actual image that you got from the internet, and on the right side, it shows you the image that it's trying to filter to get the sharpest lines. So you have a couple of filtering tools here to help you get the image as sharp as possible. For instance, if I drag this little this button here to the right, you'll see that the image, let's see if I can get it to go any darker or sharper. Not really. Not doing much for me. I can see a little bit changing, but not a whole lot. So typically the default settings with Mastercam work the best. You can also filter it by color. Right now, if I want to filter it by all the dark lines, you can see as I turn on all the shades of the black, you can see more and more of the image showing up. I'll go back to the threshold here, and I'll leave it about 3/4, and I'm going to say OK. On the next menu here, this allows you to bring it in a certain way. So you can physically have the images appear on the screen, and then you can manually trace it using the wireframe tools. Or I can try to create the outline for me. So I'll leave it at the default resolution of 200 dots per inch. I'll tell it to create outlines and spline fit. You can have all these choices here, but spline fit seems to work the best. And I'm just going to say OK. Now what Mastercam did was it brought the image in, and you can see that it's got a blue edge on it. And that blue edge is the color that you're drawing in. If that color doesn't work for you, you can right click on the menu here and you can change Mastercam to a different color, red for instance. And then when you bring the image in a second time, it'll have a red line, and that might be easier for you guys to see it. So if I X out of this guy, and then I say, okay, now draw the splines again. Notice now I can see it just a little bit better because it drew the splines in red. I like it, so I'm going to say okay. So I'm going to let it draw in, and it says, would you like to exit the raster operation? I'm going to say yes, and it leaves me with this geometry. Now, I don't need it all, so I'm just going to go ahead and select the parts that I don't want, and I'll window around these parts right here using my left mouse button. And notice they're all selected now when they're dotted, and I'll just hit the delete key. Now, there might be more than one line apparently in there. So there we are. So now I have my lightning bolt. Now for a moment, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my block, and I'm going to turn on my notes. And obviously, you can see that this lightning bolt needs to be scaled down so that we can position it where we want. So once again, I'll turn those levels off. And I'm going to go into the transform menu here at the top, and I'm going to use the scale function. So it says to select the entities, I'll window around the lightning bolt. I'll end my selection. And then I want to make sure that I'm not going to copy this bolt. I want to physically move it. So I'm going to click move, and then I'm going to scale it down. Let's try scaling it down 50%. Oops, I'm sorry, 0.5 of what it was. It's a scale factor, not percentage. If I had set it up to percentage, I could have said 50%. So now it's a little bit smaller. I'll go into levels. Let's turn these guys on again and see if it looks a little bit better. Still kind of large, so I'll turn those levels off again, and only 7 visible. And we'll go back to our scale. And what we'll do is we'll choose it. Toolpaths. We'll hit escape, scale, and we'll select the image again, and the selection. And let's try going to 0.5 of this size. And let's see what that looks like. So again, I'll go into levels. We'll turn everything on. Still kind of large. Let's turn them back off. 7 back on again. And let's go to scale again. I'll hit escape a couple times so I can go into the scale, choose my image. We'll go to maybe 0.3. That looks a little bit better. I'm going to say OK on that. Turn on all of my levels again. And let's see if that will fit inside here a little bit better now. So to move this into place, we're going to stay in the transform menu, and I'm going to click dynamic, and then I'm going to place a little window box around that lightning bolt and my selection, and you'll see a little axis gnomon appear. Take this axis gnomon and just place it over the origin point of the lightning bolt and click. Make sure again that the image is going to be moved and not copied. And then you just drag that little origin point where you want it. I'm going to say right about here. And it's still a little bit big, but that's okay. I'm going to click it here, and I'm going to tilt it a little bit, see if I can get it to go in. So I'm going to slide over to this little angular bar here, and I'm just going to kind of bring it in minus 40 degrees. That works. I click, and then I'm going to drag it back down right about here. Click again, and then once I'm happy, I'll just say OK, and there's my lightning bolt. Now, when we move geometry around, notice it changed colors to purple. That's called the transform color. That allows you to easily select it. If you're doing a bunch of those things, you can pick by color later on. If you want it to turn back to its original color, you just right-click on the screen, and then you just say clear colors, this icon right here, and that'll change it back to the original default color. So now we have our bolt with our name, and we have the card holder all set up the way that we want it. We're ready to machine it. So to machine this, I'm going to fit this to the screen. So I'm going to right click on the screen here and go to fit, and then I'm going to go back to our toolpaths tab, and it's very easy to update your program so that it includes your image. So now what I'll do is I'll left click on the geometry, and in your geometry you'll have a bunch of listed geometry chains here. That's okay. Mine doesn't show anything because I don't have a toolpath yet. But what you'll do is in this white area, anywhere in the white area, you'll right click and you'll say rechain all. That'll bring up the chaining menu, and you're going to choose the second icon down that says window. And you want to be very careful here that you select a window that goes around your frame, or just around, I'll say, the area that you want to engrave. So we're going to click again. And then notice nothing seemed to have happened, but something has happened. Look up in the upper left-hand corner, it says sketch the approximate start point. So I want to start machining approximately here. Now you notice everything turned into a dashed yellow and black, and you can see it selected all the stuff that I wanted to select, and I'll just say OK. That turns it into the new geometry, so you can see I've been populated with all the chains that I need. I'm going to say OK. And then before I finish here, I just want to verify that everything is set the way that I wanted it to, that I'm still using the proper tool and the feed rate. Remember, you can get this from the other video. And then also on my linking parameters, that my depth is set to -10. So I'm going to say OK here. And then I'm going to regenerate this operation, because if you remember, anytime you make a change to an operation, a Mastercam, and you get a red X, it's considered a dirty operation. So to regenerate it, you go up to this icon that says regenerate all dirty operations, and when you click it, it gives you a brand new toolpath. And if we want to see what this toolpath looks like, we can go into the verify function. And when I do the verify function, I'm not sure if I have the stock set up correctly yet. Let's see. So it'll bring up my image, and I'll push my middle mouse button down and then right click and say fit it. And no, I can see that this block is definitely, the stock is smaller than what my actual block is. So let's set our stock model again. So I'll right click here, go to the top menu, and then to reset your stock, just come up here to where it says properties and expand that. Click on stock setup and then choose select corners. Pick the upper left hand corner of your block, the lower right hand corner of your block. That populates your X and Y values. And remember, we machined this block to 0.73 inches thick. We'll say OK. And now we can go back into our verify function. And we can right click here and say isometric. And I'm going to turn off the wireframe so that's not appearing on the screen. And then I'm going to slow down the toolpath so that it doesn't happen too quickly. And then I'll click the play button. And this will be the machining operation that you'll have. So once you're happy with what you see, then all you have to do is go back to your main Mastercam screen and make sure that you save your file. So you'll click save, but don't save it as the template file. You want to save it as your file. You don't want to overwrite that template file. So just click save as, and then place it where you want to place it. You can browse to it or whatever current folder you're in. I'm going to say place it on the desktop, and I'm just going to simply call it my initials. I think that's in your homework instructions, so you just want to make sure that you just call it your initials and say save. Do you want to replace it? Yes, I already had my original one. I'm replacing it. I now have the file saved, and you'll take that file, you'll copy it to your flash drive, you'll bring that into the classroom, and then we'll use the licensee of Mastercam here in the classroom to produce the G-code, put it on the machine, and physically machine it. So this ends our tutorial for adding graphics and shapes to your card holder, and I'll see you in class. Thank you for watching.